guys, it's Will. It's Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society. Welcome back to the channel. Here with some Blu-ray pickups. I'm going to be doing kind of like everything I picked up over the last couple months. I usually only do, obviously, Hong Kong Blu-rays on this channel, but I've had like a lot of conversations with people, kind of side conversations on Instagram and on YouTube about how people are kind of interested in movies and physical media in general who follow this channel. And so they are primarily interested through this channel in receiving information about Hong Kong cinema, but are also interested in just kind of like other random stuff. If there's anything else out there that I picked up that they kind of might find interesting. So I thought I would just kind of show everything that's kind of arrived at my place over the past like 2 months or so, with the exception of the 88 stuff, because I did the unboxing when I got the Young Master release because I was so excited about it. I couldn't wait. So that's like right there behind me. And then I got the Van Damme films from 88 films as well. So this is going to be all the other stuff. So there's Criterion flash sale pickups in here, some stuff a friend sent to me, some stuff that was recommended by a friend, and just like a couple other random things that you'll see as we go through. So without further ado, I'm going to pick up my giant pile of Blu-rays and we can begin. So surely you knew what was coming first. Yes, yes, yes. Hell yeah, the Eureka release of the My Lucky Stars set. You know, I've been looking forward to this for a long time since it was announced. I've said this a lot in the comments. I've said this a lot on Instagram. If I have not mentioned it enough in these videos, Winners and Sinners is like a favorite of mine. And Twinkle Twinkle Lucky Stars I absolutely love. I do not remember My Lucky Stars as much. I haven't seen that one as much as the other two. I remember the opening really well. I remember the closing scene, but the in-between stuff I just don't remember it that much. I couldn't honestly tell you why, but Twinkle Twinkle and Winners and Sinners especially has like a really special place in my heart. That's like one of my favorite 80s Hong Kong movies and one of my favorite classic Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung movies, Yoon Biu. I just love that movie. There's like a camaraderie to it and a silliness to it that I just love. And Twinkle Twinkle has the same thing. And like the action scenes in Twinkle Twinkle are just ridiculous, and the silliness of it. This is a classic picture. I think this is from the My Lucky Stars shoot when they were in Japan. So the artwork is by Darren Wheeling. So drop a comment below. What do you think? Darren Wheeling versus Kung Fu Bob. This is just, come on. This is the most classic poster. Whose artwork do you like more? Or why do you like them both, maybe? We don't have to pit them against one another, because obviously they have slightly different styles. This is much more like kind of vaporwave, retro 80s kind of artwork. Not that Kung Fu Bob's isn't retro 80s, but you know what I mean? This has that kind of like what we think of now as the 80s having looked like versus what the 80s were actually like. You know, that whole retro wave, synth wave, like vaporwave, like that whole aesthetic where it's like a new version of an 80s aesthetic. Yeah, that's kind of what this reminds me of, which I really like. I mean, I love Perturbator and like a lot of that music. And so Mike, you know, who's my partner in this channel, he loves that music and he like sends a lot of it to me and like, check this track out. I think you'll like this. So I dig it, and I dig this, and I'm so excited to dig into this. The amount of bonus features on here are just absolutely insane and overwhelming. See how it sparkles? It's so good. It's so good. Frank Zheng commentaries on here for all the movies. There's alternate cuts of the different films. These are new scans from 2K and 4K scans, depending on the film. There's like no good shots, interviews, behind the scenes. Like, this is a huge set. This is going to take me a while to get through. The review will be coming soon. I have a couple, I think, Van Damme movies coming, and then I will be able to focus on that. So next up, that's the only Hong Kong release in this video. If you're exclusively interested in the Hong Kong cinema, then you're probably done with this video. So next up we have a Japanese movie. Let me get it for you. Hakaider! So this was recommended to me by Gridman93. This is a person who I've become friends with on Instagram, who's in our Facebook group, who's on YouTube and comments on these videos too. And, you know, we talk a lot about like Blu-rays that we've ordered and what kind of movies we like. And we both really like Japanese cinema, but this is a Japanese movie. Our taste in Japanese cinema is just very different. Like, I really love like the classic like 40s, 50s, 60s, a little bit into the early 70s period in Japanese cinema, what I consider to be the golden age of Japanese cinema, you know, with like Kurosawa and Ozu and Mizoguchi and Naruse and Masaki Kobayashi and all those incredible filmmakers, Seijun Suzuki in the 60s. And and he's really into like tokusatsu, I believe is the genre, which is like the kind of like special effects type like monster movies. Obviously, I like Godzilla, right? And I love like Zatoichi and like Lone Wolf and Cub. Like there is later stuff that I really like, but there's a huge kind of blind spot for me in Japanese cinema throughout like the 80s and 90s, other than anime, which I've seen. But like a lot of the live action stuff from that period, like I've seen some Takashi Miike films. I've seen the more famous Takeshi Kitano films, like the Outrage films and Hanabi and Sanantin and stuff like that. But a lot of movies from that period I've never seen. I'd never even heard of this movie. And he was like, this is one of my top recommendations. The full title in English is Mechanical Violator Hakaider. I was like, okay. And it was only $14.99. And there's two cuts on here. There's the theatrical, which is 52 minutes. And then there's the director's cut, which is like 77 minutes. Yeah. And I don't know, I was just like in a mood one day and I was like, I need a movie. I need like something that'll be like really fun and silly. And so I bought this and upon recommendation, and I did not regret it. So if you know a lot about the tokusatsu movies, tell me what I should be watching in the comments below, or tell me what your thoughts on Mechanical Violator Hakaider. I have watched this film, and I might do a review on the channel. I'm thinking pretty seriously about it because I know that people are interested in other stuff that's not Hong Kong, but I really want to be sparing with those videos. I don't want to like overload people with them and like misdirect the purpose of the channel basically. But I probably will review this at some point. But suffice it to say, my bottom line for this movie is like, it's just like, what? This is insane in the best way. It's just bananas. It's totally nuts. And there's like this robot who's smashing people to pieces. And there's like a dystopia that's ruled over by this guy who's got like some bird feathers in his costume. And like, yeah, you definitely have to see it. I'm gonna get some more movies. So let's do my Criterion pickups. I'm a huge fan of Criterion Collection. I mean, you see that the Jackie Chan release is behind me, Police Story. I also have their In the Mood for Love, the older release that they put out, and I have, which is, you know, not the new one that's coming out in the box set. I have what's the other Hong Kong movie I have? A Touch of Zen, the King Hu film. And then I pre-ordered the Wong Kar-wai set. Everyone else has gotten their Wong Kar-wai pre-orders, and I haven't. Mine hasn't even shipped yet, so I'm kind of bummed. Whatever, it is what it is. I have a lot of other stuff to watch. Obviously, it's not the end of the world. So this is my Criterion flash sale pickups from earlier this year. None of these are Hong Kong films, like I said. Here we have Only Angels Have Wings, starring Cary Grant. This is a Howard Hawks film, and it's kind of like this hard scrabble, like kind of noirish. Like, you know, this guy, Cary Grant plays this guy who runs like an airplane mail service in this like South American port town. And they got to get up over the mountains to get the mail inland, basically. And it's a very dangerous route. And so it's like him and these pilots, and they're flying out of this place that's right next to a bar, and everyone's drinking all the time. And then this woman comes through town, and she's just kind of passing through, but then there's a spark between her and Cary Grant. She decides to stay, and they have this like will they, won't they, like classic kind of old Hollywood, really contentious relationship where she's almost this Katharine Hepburn type, where she's just as like, you know, feisty and combative as he is. And like, I really, really enjoyed this movie. I really like old Hollywood, and I'm trying to see a lot more of these films. I watched a lot of them with my grandmother. Like when I was in high school, she loved Cary Grant, so we watched a lot of Cary Grant, Jimmy Stewart type movies, and like Katharine Hepburn, all that kind of stuff that she would recommend to me. But I've been reading a book about Hollywood called City of Nets that's all about Hollywood in the 40s, and so I've been reading a lot about Howard Hawks. Like I said, I love Cary Grant, so I wanted to check this out. So there you go. Up next, we have Black Narcissus. This is Pressburger and Powell. This is a British film from the 40s. And I absolutely loved Colonel Blimp. I watched that last spring. That was the first Powell Pressburger film I had ever seen, and that movie just blew me away. And so I was like, okay, well, and then I have to see as many Powell Pressburger films as I can. So I know Black Narcissus is a really highly regarded film. I didn't know anything about it really going into it, other than a brief overview of what it's about. This movie it's pretty wild. It's almost like the first thing that made me think of this is going to sound kind of bizarre is Alien. So this movie, you know, it's about these nuns who are stationed in India. They're British Catholic nuns. Well, she's Irish, I believe, and she has an English accent. But according to everything that is all the information that I gleaned from watching the movie, she's actually she's supposed to be Irish, but she didn't do an accent for whatever reason. But she's actually, her performance is incredible. It's really interesting to see like these amazing performances, but where like there's so much artifice about them, but they still have this tremendous emotional power. So these nuns are sent to this extremely remote convent way up in the Himalayas. and each one of them is extremely unfulfilled, and they meet all these people who are also not all of them, but like there's another English guy who's up there who's kind of like their contact with like the locals and stuff like that, and he also is. Everyone has these desires or these dark things in their past that they're not dealing with, and they're not confronting, and they're not accepting that they need or want. So there's like sexual desire on the part of some of the nuns who are repressing that, or like loves lost in the past, people who have died, things that they want that they don't try to. And so in this way out in the Himalayas, totally remote setting, where there's this constant wind howling, and it's almost like an alien. Like at first they don't know is the alien there, what is it killing people, and they're starting to kind of lose their minds, and they're stuck in this place with this malice, right? It's like this metaphor for darkness that is taking over. And this is a very dark movie about, they're kind of losing their minds, being stuck way out in the middle of nowhere like this, untethered from society and the things that they use to distract themselves from their dissatisfaction with life. So it's a really intense movie. It's very, very different from Colonel Blimp. So the next ones are movies that I have not watched yet, so they're still sealed. But Ivan's Childhood, I've seen like 4 Tarkovsky movies in the past couple years, and I've been blown away by every single one of them. Like truly blown. Like when I watched The Sacrifice recently, I had to like go for a drive afterwards and just like think about it. It was like very emotionally powerful film. The same is true of Solaris. I took like a whole day to watch Solaris. It's like a 3-hour movie, and I spent like 5 hours like watching it, going back to parts of it, thinking about it, reading about it. Like you just have to, for me at least, when I watch a Tarkovsky movie, first of all, some of them are really long, but when I watch a Tarkovsky movie, I really have to like turn everything else off and like completely immerse myself in it, kind of become one with the cinema, and then digest it afterwards. They're very emotionally intense films about like longing and the search for meaning, be it in a religious way, an interpersonal way. Like they're really beautiful, kind of ethereal films. And so this is his first movie, and I'm really excited to see this. He only made 7 movies, I believe. So take that one off my list. There will only be 2 left, and one of them is called Mirror, and that has been unavailable for a long time, other than I think a British release. And Janus Films just announced a remaster of that, which I hope means Criterion will be releasing it, because Criterion and Janus have a really close relationship. And then after that, I just need to see Nostalgia, which is available through Kino. So I have the Kino Blu-ray of The Sacrifice. Hopefully I'll pick up the other one. And then we have, and again, I don't speak French, I'm sorry, Pierrot Le Faux. Pierrot Le Faux. I saw this movie years ago, I believe. I love Godard, but Godard has released so many movies that it's like, unless I do nothing but watch Godard movies, I can't see them. You know, I've seen like probably 15 Godard movies at this point, and I own like 6 or 7 of them, and I really, really love his films, and I think he's a fascinating person. I love reading about him. I love watching interviews with him. The way that he tackles and deconstructs the form of cinema is unlike, I think, anything anyone has ever done in the history of cinema, unless they're directly copying him. Maybe Gaspar Noé comes closest in some of the things that he's done, of like recent filmmakers I can think of. I know he's hugely influenced by Godard. I saw him speak once, and he talked a lot about Contempt and the opening of Contempt and the use of music and camera and stuff like that. But so this was out of print for a while from Criterion, so I was really excited that they put it back in print, really excited to have it, really excited to dig into it. And so the last group, I have 3 other things here. I think I actually forgot one of them in the house, whatever, I'll just tell you what it is. That a friend of mine sent to me. Maybe you've seen me like writing in the comments. 2021 has been like kind of a continuation of 2020 for me, in terms of like, it's been kind of a rough year, but I'm getting by, and everyone's been really great on this channel. It's been really great to have these movies. But a friend of mine texted me, he's like, is everything okay? Like, do you need anything? And I was like, recommend some movies where I can just like turn my mind off and watch like action and shooting and stuff like that. So like, I've seen every John Woo movie so many times. I rewatched Terminator and Terminator 2 recently, and he was like, oh, let me send you some stuff. So this is my friend Jim. Big shout out to Jim. Thank you for sending this stuff my way. And I had never seen any of these movies, so I'm going to show them to you now. The first one we have here is Smokin' Aces. Yeah, baby. So I really like this movie. Totally, it's like, what is happening in this movie? Because part of it is like this really serious, almost like Tony Scott style, like mob thriller FBI kind of movie. And then part of it is this like completely over the top, almost like Bugs Bunny cartoon style Guy Ritchie stuff. but that didn't bother me, and I thought this movie was really interesting. It was more complex than I thought it would be, with like a lot of the twists that happen throughout the movie. The acting is incredible. Chris Pine's performance, you're like, what planet is this guy on? Is this the same Chris Pine who played Captain Kirk? Like, he's just like nuts. And Ryan Reynolds is really good in like the kind of like the straight man lead character, and Common is really great in this movie. Alicia Keys. So yeah, I mean, Jeremy Piven, Ray Liotta. So yeah, I mean, if you've seen this movie, you know what it is. And like I said, shout out to my friend Jim for sending that to me, because I really, really enjoyed that. Next up, we have, and it is funny that he said this to me when I was like, just send me some mindless stuff about shooting. Of course, he sends me Band of Brothers, right? But he really loves war movies and like military stuff and things like that. And so, you know, we talk a lot about like Platoon and Saving Private Ryan, and like I watched like Lone Survivors movie he really loves that he recommended to me, The Kingdom, with Jamie Foxx and Jason Bateman and Jennifer Garner, which is a really good movie, I thought, and like much kind of underappreciated. What else did I watch that he recommended to me? 13 Hours, which 13 Hours I thought was really interesting, because if you see the Blu-ray of 13 Hours, it was the Michael Bay film about Benghazi. There's a little feature on there, a documentary kind of thing, about the cinematography, and they use like all of these different cameras and this really cutting edge stuff, and like these cameras where you like program them to they're like on this rig that's like a semicircle, and you program them and they like fire sequentially, and it gets this like almost like Matrix kind of shot. It's crazy. And they use all these drones, and like it was really fascinating to see all that. But so anyway, he was like, have you ever seen Band of Brothers? And I was like, no, and he sent it to me, and I've watched the first 2 episodes, and I'm really digging this so far. So I mean, if you've seen, you know, the inside here, I didn't really watch television with any kind of dedication or regularity until pretty recently, so there's a lot of like old shows that I missed and I'm still catching up on. But yeah, great so far. I mean, Damian Lewis is really fantastic in here. Like the restraint that he has as an actor in that part, while everyone around him is really hamming it up, is really, really impressive. And then so the last thing here, and I was joking with my friend who sent me these movies that this is my new favorite movie, but like this movie blew me away. Honestly, blew me away. It's Sucker Punch, Zack Snyder. You know, and this was like much maligned as being sexist when it first came out, and like when I watched this movie, it was so obvious to me that this movie is not. This movie is about sexism and the way that especially like the fanboy comic book culture views women, and the way that women are objectified and sexualized. And because in all of these, if you've seen the film, like there's all these women, it's very, very dark, right? Like women are being lobotomized, they're being treated as basically sex slaves, like prostitutes and stuff like that. But there are all these fantasy action sequences in it, because basically there's a woman who dances, and her dances are like basically hypnotic, and she uses them to distract people. And it's about, and you know, obviously what Zack Snyder is getting at, because when she dances, instead of showing us her dance, it goes into a combat sequence. And so these instances in which this woman has to use her sexuality as a weapon because she has no other option, because she's been so objectified and imprisoned throughout her entire life, that's the combat that she goes through in fighting every day to gain some kind of agency in her life, right? And it's a really bleak and depressing movie, but it's looking at really interesting things. I'm probably not analyzing it like super articulately right now, but there's a really great video on YouTube. If you type in like Sucker Punch meaning, there's a guy who goes through like every single, like these characters are clearly archetypes for this, and he talks about like the religious significance of different things. And it's, you know, like the patriarchy, and like there are scenes where there's these boy soldiers, and it's like, you know, this war of like these stunted male emotions that these women are fighting against and stuff like that. It's a really great video, so go check that out. My name is Will. These have been my recent pickups. If you're not interested in non-Hong Kong movies, let me know, and I won't do videos like this. I'm kind of just experimenting to see if people dig it. Thanks so much for watching the channel, and we will see you next time.